Hello and good day, Mike Adcock here with an update on Typhoon Utor in the Western Pacific approaching the Philippines. This storm system is going by the Philippine name Labuyo as well. Brief is based on the 0Z JMA advisory from the 11th of August 2013. Alright, taking a look at the 0Z position, this is 210 kilometers east-northeast of Verac, or about 530 kilometers east of Manila. Winds are 80 knots, gusting to 115, and it continues to move off to the west-northwest at 11 knots. Pressure down to 955 hectopascal. I do want to take a moment here, point out on the MSI imagery. You can see during the overnight hours, still was a very well-defined typhoon, bona fide typhoon, and all agencies are calling it as such now. In these daylight images, you're starting to see a little bit of an eye formation, and this is a little more apparent on infrared imagery. At least a warming spot. We'll talk on that as we get into the Dvorak analyses. But continuing in a straight line, right now looking at Luzon in the crosshairs, essentially Isabela and Aurora provinces. Do have a lot of signals out from PAGASA. Try to simplify it here. Red being signal 3, orange being signal 2, and yellow being signal 1. Of course, this is going to be changing over the next few hours with new updates from PAGASA. So for storm specific information, or storm information specific to your area, follow the forecasts and warnings issued by your local meteorological agency. Alright, quickly, here's their surface analysis. Really no change again. High pressure to the north. That's going to continue to keep it off to the west-northwest. Some lowered pressure over China, and that's approaching our tropical depression in the South China Sea. Some surface plots here, not a whole lot to talk about. You're seeing portions of Bihol starting to get some showers, as well as in Aurora. On the outer fringes of the typhoon, we're going to continue to see that deteriorate over the next few hours. Here's JMA's forecast tracking much further south, you'll notice here, and that's going to be the trend for all of the agencies. Again, looking at a landfall near Isabela or Aurora provinces. That doesn't preclude a much larger area from getting into the weather. You'll see this storm warning area highlighted here in red. It covers a lot of real estate as far south as portions of Metro Manila, as well as into the Bihol region. So a lot of interest in this area, and a lot of folks are going to be seeing deteriorating weather over the next couple days. Here's PAGASA's forecast track. Again, this is a little further south toward Aurora for landfall. Right now, PAGASA is expecting about up to 25 millimeters per hour of rainfall. Their concern is in that signaled area we talked about earlier. Folks in low-lying areas are going to be dealing with flash flooding. In the mountains, you're looking at landslides. And of course, coastal regions are going to be dealing with storm surge. So a lot at stake here. High winds, as well as the flash flooding, landslides, and storm surge. And Luzon's not going to be the only ones being affected by Labuyo. This is going to enhance the monsoon. That's going to increase our rain showers over the rest of Luzon, the Visayas, as well as Mindanao, and that's going to pose a challenge for any shipping interests in the region. Looking at some other storm tracks, here's Hong Kong's forecast. They're leaning more toward Isabela for landfall. Again, looking for landfall being tomorrow. Here's Korea's. Again, really no difference there. Taiwan's issuing as well. They're looking, again, Isabela. Again, not so much, we don't want to focus too much on the line forecast track. The effects of the typhoon will extend outward. You can see here, this is Vietnam's forecast. Also note, here's our tropical depression in the South China Sea. Pretty weak though, should remain that way. And again, we've been focusing a lot on the Philippines the past couple of days. We will have to start turning our attention toward southern China, Hainan province, getting toward Macau and Hong Kong. You're going to be dealing with this later on in the week as well. Here's Thailand's forecast. And then lastly, we'll look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. And they've pretty much been dead on here for a while, looking at, again, Aurora, Isabella landfall. Prior to landfall, here at 18 Zulu, they're looking at an intensity of 105 knots. Based on this, using that 1 minute average, you could see up to about 110, I would imagine, just at landfall. And landfall right now looking at early morning hours there in the Philippines. Taking a look here, this is the JTWC's wind radii forecast. The blue signifying 35 knot winds, yellow being 50 knots, and then the red being typhoon force winds. Do cut a clear path across the Philippines with those typhoon force winds. Alright, quick moment, take a look at our track guidance. Really no change here. What we're really starting to focus on here is the extended forecast just west of Macau and Hong Kong, so that's going to be where we're turning our attention to next. Intensity forecast, near term strengthening, should weaken quite a bit as it crosses Luzon, and then should see a little more development. Should remain a typhoon or pretty much near typhoon status as it continues across the South China Sea toward China. Alright, looking at the Dvorak analyses, I mentioned that the eye feature, or the eye feature, you can see it here in this Dvorak enhancement, white surrounded by the cold medium gray. JMA is looking at a T5.0. National Weather Service, about the same thing, 5.0. They're looking at a center of circulation embedded in white. JTWC a little stronger, 5.5, and I honestly kind of lean toward this solution myself. Ragged eye, it's the white eye surrounded by the cold medium gray. Even after adjustment, still looking at a 5.5. Advanced Dvorak a little lower, 4.5 there. Still equates to about 77 knots. So again, I think the Joint Typhoon Warning Center may be a little more accurate, at least on, or that's the analysis I personally agree with more. Taking a look at our WindSat imagery from about 22 Zulu this morning, doesn't really pick up over the cyclone. That's understandable. When you got a strong typhoon, it's not going to pick up very well. I bring this up because look at how far these winds extend outward. These green wind barbs indicate 35 knot winds, or at least 35 knot winds, and they're already starting to approach Luzon. This area in yellow, this is at least 50 knots, so knocking on the doorsteps of the Philippines already. Sea surface temperatures remain warm, about 30 degrees Celsius, and we see that in our buoys. Really no change. May be a slight cooling, and that's really with the increased cloud cover you're dealing with there. Alright, turn our attention now to the upper air analysis. When I was putting this together, was just getting some of the upper air data, so the streamlines you're seeing here are GFS based, but indicating that the cyclone is extending all the way up to the 200 hectopascal level. Still have this anticyclonic curvature near the storm, not as well pronounced, so you're cutting off some of that outflow that we did see. This is a mature system, so it's at the end of that life cycle. Still some enhancement or enhanced outflow though out ahead of the storm system. 500 hectopascal, again continuing that westward motion with high pressure up to the north. You can see that ridging extending in, and a lot of subsidence north of the system. 925, again really no change there. See both our typhoon and our tropical depression. Clear skies up ahead of it with that subsidence. And shear, really not much to talk about here. Do have some increasing shear over the Visayas and Mindanao, but with the storm system moving west-northwestward, it's going to continue toward this area of low shear. And again, recapping, Yes, we're going to be focused on typhoon force winds crossing over Luzon, but of course, heavy rainfall going to be a concern. Flash flooding, storm surge, as well as landslides. In this area of yellow here, this is the GFS forecast through Tuesday morning. You're looking at least 75 millimeters of rainfall here in Aurora and nearby. Rainfall amounts as high as 250 millimeters, and that also extends into portions of Bihol as well. Speaking of Bihol, let's take a quick look at Barak's current observation. This is at 0Z. Wind temperature 24.6 degrees. It's cloudy with some spotty rain out there. Pressure is starting to drop down 1,006 hectopascal. Winds are light though, 4 knots. We should see that continue to deteriorate throughout the rest of your Sunday. Of course, this concludes today's update on Utor. We'll continue to be posting updates throughout the day over at westernpacificweather.com. Follow along on Twitter and Facebook. You'll see those continued posts throughout the day and into the evening hours. You can also join in on the global tropical discussion at storm2k.org. Follow me on Twitter at Senior Pepper. I'll be posting here and there between video updates. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day and take care.